to my YouTube channel, One Race, Human Race, All Human. Today is Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022. On August 6, 1965, the Voting Rights Act was passed. That was 57 years ago, coming up this week. The Southern strategy has been used to divide and conquer. However, you defeat that with agape love, concern, compassion, actions of love for all people everywhere. For this one race, the human race. Check out Luke chapter 10, Matthew chapter 22.
As president of the national think tank Demos, our next guest devoted her professional work to developing policy solutions to issues of inequality. To be focused on policy is to be focused on progress. It's an inherently optimistic pursuit, one that requires leaning into hope over doom and despair. And it led Heather McGhee to quit her job at Demos to travel around America and meet the Americans who are coming together across racial lines to fight for solutions in their cities and towns. She shares the stories of these everyday people that power American democracy in her brand new podcast, The Sum of Us. Heather McGhee joins us now.
Thank you, Zerlina.
So first off, thank you so much for joining us. It's so great to see you. So you begin your podcast in Montgomery, Alabama, at the site of a former community swimming pool that was drained of all the water and cemented over in 1959 because the community didn't want to racially integrate the pool. And the symbol of the pool is a thread that runs throughout the podcast. Talk about the people that you met along the way and tell us some of the stories that resonate with you as you went about making this podcast.
Well, this podcast is really a sort of a follow-on, another journey to the journey that I took to write the book, The Sum of Us, where the drained pool stands for not just what happened to swimming pools in America that were publicly funded, but what happened to free college in America that was publicly funded, what happened to good family-sustaining wages and good jobs and union jobs, why we didn't ever fill in the pool of public goods around healthcare in the first place in this country. And the single unifying answer is racism in our politics and our policymaking that is so subversive that it actually ends up costing all Americans. And the solution, because racism ends up stopping us from having collective action and doing things together to solve our problems, is for people to come together across lines of race. And so I set out on this podcast to get deeply into the stories of people like the folks that are profiled in the episode that just came out today, a Black former homeless veteran and civil rights leader who teams up with a white disgraced Republican congressional aide from the Abramoff scandal. Like, you really can't make this stuff up, but it's honestly true. And together they helped set the strategy for the campaign to overturn a Jim Crow law in Florida that created a lifetime ban on voters with felony convictions. So there are 9 other stories like this of cross-racial solidarity, people saying, you know what, we've got to refill the pool and make life work better for all of us.
We just have one more minute, but how do people overcome their differences? I mean, we hear so much that we can't talk about race, but you've figured out how. How have you done that?
Well, just in a minute. I really just listened to people like folks that we're going to hear from next week, Bridget and Terrence. Bridget is a white woman, white working class, poverty wage, fast food worker. Terrence is a Black fast food worker, and they were miles apart physically and in terms of ever thinking that they would ever be on the same side. And what ended up happening was that they realized that actually by being divided and by blaming themselves, blaming each other, blaming immigrants for the lack of good jobs, they were actually just playing into the hand of the boss. And so it was through organizing that they were able to come together, become friends, and ultimately win a massive wage increase in their state as part of the fight for 15.
I think that's the theme of the show tonight, organizing. Heather McGhee, thank you so much for joining us tonight. That's tonight's last word. The 11th hour with Stephanie Rule starts now.
The Southern strategy was designed to stop blacks and whites from voting together. Good chance Listen to Dr. King's speech from March 25th, 1965. It's the Montgomery Voting Rights speech, where he points out in the speech that in the 19th century, blacks and whites voted together. Black men and white men, because women couldn't vote at the time, right? Not to 1920, could white women vote based upon the Constitution. And then in the South, black men got the vote on August 6, 1965 with passing of the Voting Rights Act, right? But the point is, in the 19th century, after the 15th Amendment was passed, black men and white men voted together, not based upon color, but economics. They didn't care about the color. They voted economics and what they call fusion coalitions, right? And so then they got rid of that and brought in segregation. But the point is that they worked together. Agape love is how you overcome the Southern strategy. Google that. Southern strategy tries to divide people. There's one race, the human race. We all need food in our stomach, clothes on our back, shoes on our feet, shelter over our head, and free college, right? State college and community college, right? So it comes down to agape love, being concerned, having compassion, caring for one another as neighbors, and taking actions that make life better for all people. For all people have a right to life, liberty, food, and happiness. There's one race, human race. Get a chance to look at Luke chapter 10, verses 25 to 37. The minister messed up, the deacon messed up, but the Good Samaritan showed love, compassion, agape love for the person in need of help and help that person. That's what it means to be a true Christian, taking actions of love to make life better, to build back better, to bring the abundant life. Christ said in the second half of John 10:10, I'm come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. Christ never charged a copay when he healed people. And healthcare should be free, just like it is in most of the world. And that will create more businesses too. Then entrepreneurs don't have to worry about healthcare because it's paid by the government, right? Thank you for being on my YouTube channel. One race, human race, all human. We are all one. Get a chance to read the book, Dog Whistle Politics, How Code Race Appeal Has Reinvented Racism in the Middle Class by Professor E. Hanny Lopez, which analyzes how racism changes. It stays the same, but it just morphs. It morphs, right? If I'm a poor white person, a poor white middle-class person, and you're a poor black person, or poor middle-class black person, or Asian or Latina, we're all the same people, right? We're all human beings. We're all made in the image of God. Everyone has a right to life, liberty, sweet happiness. God bless you, and God keep you. Thank you for being on my YouTube channel. One race, human race, all human. Today is Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022.